just the second team ever to make it to 4 straight Super Bowls. And after just finishing the greatest 3-year stretch in NFL history, they're going to try to have the greatest 4-year stretch in NFL history. But to do that, they're going to have to make it to and win the Super Bowl. Coach Mangini is joining us to give his offseason keys on how KC can make it to the Super Bowl 60. Try to be as unbiased as I was in the setup, Coach. Go right ahead.
Yeah, that was quite a setup. I know we're going to have a lot of time to discuss the Kansas City Chiefs. And to not be too obvious here, because we were all able to watch the Super Bowl, but they've got to aggressively attack the offensive line. That's the first issue. So in the Super Bowl, he gets sacked 6 times, which is the most he's ever been sacked in a single game in his career.
Purdy
this
was
past
on.
season
He was lighting up defenses. When things got particularly tough around him,
and just to put in perspective,
he wasn't nearly as great, making me wonder if he's able to consistently elevate those around him. It sounds like
that was only 14 games.
Is he a quarterback who can overcome adversity, or will he be limited by it in his career? Where are those goalposts when you need them, Bruce? Some people wanted to know how he would deal with adversity years ago. So, Brew, Coach saw it yesterday. What is this?
Iowa Mafia, baby. I'm still with you.
Okay,
contrary to popular opinion on this.
Well, I mean, hold on.
Nick, I don't know who else.
Coach, yesterday, Greg wasn't here. Yesterday, did it feel like Brew was falling out of love with Brock Purdy?
It didn't feel like you were in.
You want that to be exactly. So, would the 49ers regret paying Brock Purdy?
Well, you know where I'm at. And Coach talked about it earlier. Mahomes, if Mahomes took $45 million, then maybe Brock Purdy could take $45 million. That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm trying to do. But let's say they pay him top of the market. He wants his money. He hadn't been paid.
Have a $20 million
I don't think it's a death knell.
The highest paid center in football history in Creed, who's
Philadelphia
awesome.
has shown you can have a high-priced quarterback, and I know Jalen's contract hadn't come in yet. But still, they got everything, right? And so you can still add great players around a highly paid quarterback. And look, he's shown you that he's got poise. He's shown you he can play in the playoffs. We got his playoff numbers coming up. But he's performed well in the playoffs. 4 wins already, got you to a Super Bowl, and you might say, well, Jimmy G got us to a Super Bowl too.
Yeah, that's what.
But they got there. But you remember that, Nick. In fairness, they got there kind of despite Jimmy G in the playoffs. They hardly threw the football. Didn't they throw it only 8 times in one game?
Yes, but that
Purdy actually led comebacks, led game-winning drives in the second half against top teams to get them to the Super Bowl.
Was even throwing trick shot passes off defenders' helmets.
No, but I mean, Purdy. And here's the other thing. This year, with no Brandon Ayuk,
when you've got a guy like Patrick Mahomes,
Debo's not an Avenger anymore. As far as I'm concerned, he's good. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but he's not.
And Debo's probably going to be gone next year as well.
Right. And no Christian McCaffrey for the most part. Look at this passer rating. Was he fantastic? As good as first 2 years? No, but his passer rating still was higher than these guys. We got this graphic, I believe, coming on. Well, it's some big names on there. If we ever see it, it'll be. Oh, we don't. I'll read. Higher passer rating than Stafford.
But what I saw in the
Patrick
Super Bowl
Mahomes, you mentioned C.J. Stroud.
His passer rating was good. This graphic will have his passer rating. We put up his previous part of his career to last year. What you will see, I think we have this one, is he was, of course, worse across the board.
Which is very likely.
I think they are going
to. Which is very likely. You have to
claim to fame early was that he was a winner. The claim to fame year before this one was the great numbers along with winning. Right. So his rookie year he was a winner. He was in the 2023. He had the amazing numbers to go along with the wins, and then 2024 he had neither.
With Tom Brady, you always keep the middle of the pocket firm.
I feel, Coach,
because the idea was that if you push the pocket on him and he couldn't step up, that he couldn't make it out left or right.
If it's not a no-brainer, and the people you guys will throw at me is Trevor. For me, Trevor, I wouldn't have had to hesitate. Now, it doesn't right now look like it was the right call. I understand that. But at that moment, a guy who'd been number 1 pick of the draft, a guy who in year 2 made the playoffs, played great, won a playoff game, and in year 3, they were 8-3 and then he got hurt, I would have been like, yes, of course I'm paying. I get that you guys put Trevor out of it because I have
But this ain't Dak.
Right, but I wouldn't have paid those guys. That's the point I'm making.
That's fair.
And so, like, Burrow, Josh, Patrick, obviously, there's no hesitation.
There's like 4 guys like that. That's the problem.
Is going to end up two very productive years before he got hurt.
Will they regret it?
4 yards of carry, but this year he's
I think they will.
Yep. And then
simply
Kareem
because
Hunt came
of what
in,
we're
he
talking
did
about
nice
right now.
job,
Those
but he was
top
under 4 yards
guys
of carry too.
are
If you don't
automatic,
have
no
a
brainers, no questions asked.
4+
32
yards,
teams had an opportunity to pay him, they would pay him because they're that much of a difference maker. Now, with Brock Purdy, the challenge is going to be what we saw this year can be what we will see moving forward.
Because you're not going to have a stacked team.
Yes, and I didn't think he played bad, but he clearly didn't play good enough to where they were able to overcome some of those issues that they're going to have. They're not going to have all these guys moving forward once you decide to pay Brock Purdy. And even if you don't decide to pay him, you're still not going to have all these guys. And he was inserted into a situation where they were a stacked team defensively and offensively. And so all he had to do was just be steady and not turn the ball over. And now you're asking a player that wasn't asked to do so much to do much more.
But don't you think he did a lot? I mean, like I said, 2 years ago, like you said, he just had to be steady.
And then I ended up drafting
he led
in the first round. And the idea is it puts so much pressure on the defense as to who they're going to cover with, which safety they're going to bring down. It takes safeties away from being able to double team on the outside. So getting
it's a show that's in a bit of a predicament.
is critical. And
we don't have an unlimited budget.
Tight end.
We kind of have to put some bets on the board.
It's easier said than done.
So
you can get a complete tight end
really
who can be
prepared
in the running game
because
as well.
you were so
Kelce,
persistent.
Okay.
You told me all year they're practicing. I was arguing about point difference.
Smartly, Brew. And now we get to have the only show with a proper celebration for Luka's Laker debut. Oh my!
We planned this whole thing for Chiefs, and we're still going to do it.
Don't you pop
that?
Don't you pop that?
It's not just his production, but it's his leadership.
Well, we have to do it. We can't return any of this stuff.
Because he gets
you spent too much money.
We spent.
You guys hung the banners.
They
were
the
Super Bowl.
We didn't have to hang them. They have to work together. I'm not sure.
Just is what it is at this point. I'm sorry.
The communication, but
the first hour, first things first. Today, three-peat denied. What went
heavy
wrong for Mahomes and our own Nick Wright. Meanwhile, Philly triumphant. Jalen Hurts answers the call. How does this performance affect his legacy? And finally, Saquon already talking about a three-peat.
I actually like that one.
I don't think he's talking
about their own dynasty.
More about your script and less about your confetti poppers.
That I've always felt like he's kind of he goes
don't tell me what to do,
but he makes big plays.
Yeah, go ahead.
He's a moments guy, and he's had a moment in the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Sorry. Okay. Alongside Chris Broussard, I'm Kevin Wild. Nick, are you excited for today's show?
You've never been more excited. I have confetti in my mouth.
I'm sorry. Sorry. They told me not to.
2 years.
They told you not to the lights. Didn't mean to hit me in the eye.
Sorry. We're starting with
just because one, I do want the light show.
Blowout.
With Worthy, with
Chiefs
Rasheed,
three-peat dreams crushed early. We're in the first half. Patrick Mahomes literally had more yards throwing to Cooper DeJean, 48, than his own teammates, 33. Mahomes was down by 34 in the fourth quarter.
So
then he came alive.
The competition's going to be a little bit tougher. They won't be shook when they play the Chiefs.
Try to get the show back on track. And again, I'm sorry, but we did spend all the money on the goods and services for the Chiefs. But we really, honestly, enough silliness. We won't do this. But just give real analysis on when doubt crept in that this repeat wasn't going to happen.
Make sure they have it all figured out. 10-0, I felt fun. They've